Hello, welcome to CSM Talk, the CSM podcast that focuses on the two fundamentals of success, which is value to the customer and value to the organization. On Rule of 40 today, we're going to be talking to my guest who is going to focus on one area of the Rule of 40. That might be new logo acquisition, it might be churn, it might be upsell and expansion, or it might be profitability, and ask how they partner with customer success and ultimately how that drives value to the customer. All right, got it? Good. Let's CSM talk. Welcome everybody to CSM Talk, and on Rule of 40 today, it's a great pleasure for me to have as my guest, Amy Lee. So Amy, welcome.
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
I'm very good. I'm very well. Thank you very much. So Amy, you're based out in the West Coast?
Yeah, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area today.
Okay, cool. So Amy, would you just like to introduce yourself to the audience, a bit about your role, about your company, and what you do?
Yeah, no, it's really good to talk to you. I work at Zuora. It's a complete end-to-end like quote to revenue solution, working with mostly B2B companies. We're an enterprise SaaS product, so we help transform the way that our customers kind of do business with their end customers. Right. So that's kind of like a quick high level. Our focus originally had started with subscriptions, but we've really expanded that concept of subscriptions beyond just, your monthly magazine things, right? Like the idea of subscription economy is just really widespread. So I'm excited to still work at a company that's focusing on new ways of doing business.
Cool. So for Zuora, for people who don't know, is it what's the kind of go-to-market motion for them?
Yeah, the typical go-to-market motion, right? Like, can I say all of the above? Right. We sell directly to we sell directly to many of our companies, but we're moving more into a partner-led direction, right? Working more closely with our partners. But those are kind of the two main primary drivers.
Mm-hmm. So it is, I mean, typically when people look at the go-to-market motions that we want to categorize, and there's like product-led, which is like stuff that takes off that's viral. There's maybe like marketing-led, again, a similar kind of motion. But this feels more like it is sales-led. So there's a
sales and partner-led, right,
yeah,
are our two primary.
And partner being in terms of partnerships, they're more really like SIs and alliances and things like that.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Right. So would you like to tell us a bit about your role within Zuora?
Yeah, I've had a lot of different roles at Zuora, floating all over the place between support, customer success for a while. And then in my current iteration, I'm working in something called new product introduction. And this is a role that is a little bit newer. We kind of saw the need for a position that looked cross-functionally across the multiple different teams to help really streamline the way that our product, when they do decide to launch new offerings and go to market, to make sure all the pieces are in place so that it's a smooth process, not just for the customer, but from the buying experience, the quoting experience for our sales reps, as well as enablement for the internal teams.
Okay. So, and I mean, obviously with this being a function in its own right, the introduction of new products is something which is very big with Zuora, and it being a multi-product company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've actually accelerated the rate that our product innovation has been going, and just launching things across our different primary product lines. So there's a whole bunch of new, fun, exciting things that really help our businesses change the way that they're interacting and using our system. But that means there's a whole lot of legwork from an operational lens that we have to do behind the scenes to make that happen.
Cool. Okay, good. Right. So let's start with the fun icebreaker question. It's a question typically I ask people I interview when I interview them for customer success roles. I ask them in one word, and only one word, not 4 words, 5 words, or 10 words, but in one word, sum up customer success.
Okay, I'm gonna probably do the very cop-out answer, right? But like I say the word customer success is summed up by customer. It has to be customer first, right? At the end of the day, the whole role, the whole point of what CSMs are trying to do is drive value and make sure that the customer focus and the customer ability to feel like they have a real partner within organizations is there.
Excellent. All right. You know what I'm going to do? As I go on with this podcast, I'm going to have a big board where I just write people's names and the word next to them. We can come back and revisit it every week. So thank you for that. Okay, so well, let's move on to looking at the area of the rule of 40 that you'd like to focus on. So when we look at the areas of rule of 40, this idea of balancing growth against profitability, the areas you want to look at are, say, new logo acquisition, churn, upsell expansion, when you include that adoption, I guess, or profitability. So what's the area of the rule of 40 you'd like to discuss with specifically to your role?
Yeah, it's easiest to focus right now on upsell and adoption for me, just because the concept of launching a new product, right? We want to build stuff that people actually want to use. So
Cool. Okay, right. So with that in mind, of that area of upsell and expansion and adoption being your key driver that we're going to focus on, how are the ways in which you might partner with customer success?
yeah, so the biggest way that my particular role is interacting with customer success today and working together with them is to make sure that we build in a space for customer success as early as possible as part of that product launch concept, right? So, different companies have different ways of gathering and capturing that type of feedback, right? We always hear customer success with the voice of the customer. How do we do that and have them partner better with the other parts of the organization, specifically our product managers, right? Working with them early enough during their roadmap planning, trying to figure out if the use cases that we see today with the customers and what we hear about that customers want coming down the line are represented in the way that we think about what we decide on, investing time and effort in. From there, the second piece that I always think about customer success is definitely more tactical, right? Like, yes, we want feedback early and often, but then once we decide to build something, once it's close to done, once it's in whatever your early adopter, early access phases, as it moves into general availability, how do I make sure that the customer success teams, number one, know what's coming and understand the value of what it is that's being presented? And enough credibility and enough, the concept of how technical do you need to get, enough of the product knowledge is there where the teams feel like they can confidently go back to their customers and say, hey, we have a really cool new thing coming. Would you be interested in partnering with us on an early program? Or, we have this thing here, you should really take a look at it because it does solve for something, a business issue that we heard about, 6 months ago. So trying to figure out that balance of awareness for CSMs and making sure we get feedback from CSMs, but also how do we help drive better CSM conversations by providing the materials, guidance, and enablement so that they can go out and make a difference for their end customer.
And so if I hear you rightly, it's about them having an idea of what's coming, what value it could be to the customer, where they should be positioning any particular new features or products that are coming out. Mm-hmm. Are these all tied back in any way to success plans?
Yeah, in the ideal world, yes, we would love to be able to start capturing and tracking that as a way to do a proper feedback loop, right? Not every company has the maturity yet to have that type of specifics that success plans should capture, right? So some success plans I've seen are super high level and other ones actually get into the detailed level. When it comes to anything, product related, use case related, business issue related, I would love that feedback loop eventually to go back into products so that we do create it, that kind of native circle, which right now is happening, at most places I've seen, just very sporadically, right? It's built on the existing relationships that CSMs may have with product versus having a more consistent, regular feedback loop.
Right. Because one of the things that I would imagine any product organization would like is being able to say, if we want to prioritize the features we're building in our roadmap, which of those gives the biggest bang for the buck? And can we quantify that as well? That they've got stuff which is quantifiable ROI putting this feature out, and they can do that with other features that they've got potentially they're going to put in. or use the data that they've got that says, when we've done things like this, it's given this much ROI in terms of speed to market, or cutting costs or something like that. They've already put a similar feature. They can base on that and go, well, maybe we should prioritize it because we know from historically, this is the kind of thing it really delivers to the customer.
Yeah, no, totally. When you talk about just ROI and being able to quantify and see and tie, that value to a number, it really does help, at least from what I hear the product team decide, right? They have a lot of really good ideas, but how do you know which one's the right one, right? Do I want to satisfy and kind of expand my existing customer base experience, or do I want to create something that is trying to go after new logos, right? So there's different ways that they're thinking about things as they decide to launch a product. And a big one for the customer success lens is making sure that we get feedback from the CS side in order to continue ensuring a better and enhanced experience for them as we continue to develop new things coming out.
So, I mean, this point again of because the reason I'm really intrigued about tying it back to an ROI delivered by a success plan is that again feeds back into new business, because then you have a pre-sales organization that when it matches it against requirements goes, well, look, not only can the solution deliver technically against fulfilling that requirement, but when it does, this is the benefit you get. So your whole product experience of demonstrating on demonstrable value, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and it's good generally for the entire internal ecosystems that rely on this information, right? Customer success is, a lot of times the holder of a lot of this information. And right now, depending on the tools you have or lack of tools you have, a lot of that information sits inside people's heads, right? The tribal knowledge is definitely there, but I know I have to go talk to somebody to get that out of them. Success plans are a way that you can actually share that information more easily across different functions.
Cool. So, so as it stands, what if you wanted to measure as a, I mean, let's start with what is your. I'm going to look at KPIs now and how you measure success on this collaboration with customer success. So, the final output, what would you say that is? Is that like, this is the amount of upsell we've done in new products via a CSM channel? What looks like? What's the kind of the end net result that you can show this is worked well?
Yeah, there's probably a couple of different things, and to be realistic, we are still trying to figure out what some of those motions look like, but I would like to see it across maybe a couple of different vectors. One of them would be number one, when it comes to the new things that we're launching and monetizing in particular, can we see CSM led qualified opportunities, basically, right? Like that's one way that we could try to capture that. The second thing where CSMs would help with from a KPI standpoint would be on the product adoption front. Are your customers using it? Are your customers attending the webinars and marketing things that we're doing to launch and get that message out, right? So participation from that lens. Do I have CSMs being able to get their customers to not only adopt, but become referenceable from that, right? Like the biggest way that I measure success when it comes to this is, do I have people willing to champion this new offering for us? And that comes from the reference lens.
And so what I'd like to at this point clarify just one thing and separate them out maybe into two kind of streams, as it were, is you seem to have a new product as in an add-on kind of motion, which is this is a new add-on that's coming out. This is the value to it. This is where it might be linked to a success plan, which is an objective they want to achieve with ROI against it. So this is how you can position it, and then bring in an AE to actually go through and sell that as an upsell. And then there's another side, which is this is features that are coming out as part of the product they're already subscribing to, and we'd like them to adopt it because this is the value it can do. One's about just adoption, and one's about an actual sort of an upsell. So on the adoption side, where would you see the if we come back to, and I know we've looked at the rule of 40 through the lens of expansion, but where would in terms of adoption you see that impacting the rule of 40? Is this something which you would say impacts churn?
This goes back to your success plan thing, right? Part of it is understanding what drivers are important for that particular customer. And when we do roll out critical features or things that that particular customer really, really has struggled with over the years and now can take advantage of. How do we help the CSMs make sure that they're able to communicate that to the customer and have that conversation, and then also get them on a true adoption path? Um, that's sometimes a struggle, right? Like when you work with customers, right? There's sometimes fatigue about having to add in additional things, but part of what we're trying to do is give them enough of the value messaging and enough of the materials to go confidently and talk to their customers and say, no, really, you guys told us, look here, 6 months ago, you said that you were struggling with this. We heard your feedback. And now we actually have something, like, let us help you, right? And try to bring them along to prevent some of the potential churn risks down the line.
Both whether you sell as an upsell or whether it's a feature they adopt, linking them both back to a success plan with a demonstrative ROI is kind of key, because you'll secure a renewal that way. Is that obviously a success plan delivered writes its own business case for the renewal, right? But again, you've got that the adoption of those features, if linked back to a success plan, is something that can be getting fed back into the pre-sale cycle. So I think the thing I'm hearing is that everything ends up at a success plan.
Yeah, we anchor on, we have to have a plan somewhere, right? It can't just be a very amorphous thing, right? Once we are able to actually capture and get down to the specifics, and a good quality specifics related to what the customers are telling us, right? It really does translate for the customer into value from all different parts of the organization. And I look at the CSM role being a primary gatekeeper for all that good stuff.
Well, I think we covered a lot of the things we're looking on here. We're looking at you've got features which can be either monetized or other adoption. You're partnering with CSMs being able to, if it's for features, looking at getting those introduced and positioned as things which are addressing initiatives that the customer wants. One of the measures of success you were looking at for new monetized upsell add-ons is actually, which is a very, very good point, is tracking CSQLs, which is quite a hot topic in the customer success community, on demonstrating this idea of how they can be lead generators and generating expansion. And the value to the customer, obviously, it is looking at that feedback loop of having the CSM being integral into looking at how they can feedback what is the value to the customer, and be that conduit, via yourself, or going back to product management, and being able to say, this is what you should prioritize because of value to the customer. And then in theory, we tie this all back to value to your organization, Zuora, and everybody's happy.
Just that easy.
Thank you so much, Amy. Any final parting words you want on your role within driving the Rule of 40 and partnering with customer success?
Yeah, I think maybe the last bit I'll leave is a lot of times organizations end up getting too siloed, right? You're focused on however you measure it, your objectives and the goals that you set for your particular year. But so much of what we do relies on this cross-functional aspect. So the customer success managers I've seen that are the most successful are willing to essentially take the time and expand their internal team networks in order to not only learn more about just how different parts of the company work, but figure out how they can inject and influence and put in their customer success lens to continually advocate internally for their customers. So whether that's working with product, working with different other teams, I think there's a lot of learning and a lot of beauty in us continuing to work together more as a kind of, I don't know, it's nice to work in a company where it's not, you're not locked in together and only focused on one thing, right? Like we have to do it together.
Thank you very much, Amy. Amy, finally, if people want to get in touch with you and they see this and are a bit more interested about what you do, is LinkedIn the best way of doing that?
Yeah, LinkedIn would be fantastic. I'm happy to chat anytime. I'm trying to figure out kind of what I'm doing for my role right now. It's new and it's fun, and part of it is designing and figuring out the best ways for me to do what I'm supposed to do.
Cool. Okay. So I'll have your LinkedIn details on the YouTube and the Spotify podcast Amy, thank you very much. This has been an absolute delight.
No problem. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you to today's guest on Rule of 40. If you found this useful, please share this with your network. If there's a topic you want us to cover, then please in the comments let us know. Maybe we'll do a show on that as well. If you want to know about when it's coming up next, hit subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you on the next CSM Talk. Bye for now.